Welcome once again. It's Breakfast Extra. Our very first big report this morning, the long-awaited courtroom debut of Yahaya Bello, the embattled former governor of Kogi State. Well, that unfolded this week with all the drama, and Nigerians have come to expect that anyway. Now, after months of dodging the EFCC's grasp, Bello was finally arraigned, facing charges of misappropriating a jaw-dropping 80 billion naira. It was a spectacle of legal and political intrigue. The EFCC struggling to prosecute him amidst procedural bottlenecks, including their contentious attempts to proceed without proper legal representation, move, which was swiftly rejected by the court. Now, Bello, a card-carrying member of the ruling APC, is now in custody for the next 2 weeks, giving the nation a rare glimpse into the ruling party's willingness to hold one of its very own to account. But with the EFCC's track record and the labyrinth of legal hurdles already emerging, Nigerians are left wondering, is this the start of a landmark case for justice or just another episode of political theatrics?
Well, joining us to break this down, we actually have Emmanuel Bagudu, our esteemed News Central correspondent, who's been following this case closely from the courts. And we also have Uthman Isa Tochukwu, Esquire, a seasoned legal practitioner who will guide us through the complexities of the legal processes ahead. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining us, Uthman.
Thank you for having me.
Uthman, if you first of all just paint a legal picture of exactly where Yahaya Bello finds himself, and if you can explain this loyalist case that we heard of from the courts.
Well, just before Uthman actually, responds to that, we'll take a look at the package by Emmanuel Bagudu and see how it goes. Stay with us.
The embattled ex-governor Yahaya Bello appeared in court alongside his alleged accomplices for the first time after resisting arrest by the anti-graft agency. Bello pleaded not guilty to the 16-count charge leveled against him by the EFCC, bordering on conspiracy, illegal possession of several properties, and criminal breach of trust amounting to 110 billion naira. After taking their pleas, Joseph Daudu, counsel to Bello, moved the bail application for the former governor, but counsel to the EFCC opposed the application, arguing that the application had been invalid since October. Making further clarifications, the counsel to the defendant says that the only relevant application before the court was the motion for the bail in respect to the first defendant, which is the ex-governor, which was filed on November the 22nd. The court then fixed December the 10th to rule on the bail application. Attempts to get the reaction of the counsel failed as they refused making comments. The complexity involved in the ex-governor Yahaya Bello case is the fact that the ex-governor has evaded arrest several times. He has refused to turn up in court despite invitation from court. And now the EFCC has found an opportunity of arraigning him. And of course, the time given between now and will give the EFCC ample opportunity, ample time to be able to file their processes very well, to be able to be sure that they are going to have the governor from the beginning to the end of the case. Here in Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
All right, well, there you have it. Emmanuel Bagudu has actually, painted a picture of what is actually happening in the Yahaya Bello and EFCC case. Now, let's come back to you, Uthman. I think Mazino did ask you a question just before the package. If you could go ahead and, respond to that now.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. In law, right, every offense is bailable with certain exceptions, right? Now, the exceptions to some of the offenses that are not bailable offenses are capital offenses. And like we know, in law, capital offenses are offenses that comes with death penalty, right? Now, when we want to x-ray the situation of the ex-governor of Kogi State, Malam Yahaya Bello, we would ask ourselves, what nature of offense had he been, accused of, or is he being tried of? He's been tried of financial crimes, And then in law, the question would have been, is it a bailable offense or not? The answer to this question is yes, it is a bailable offense. But being bailable offense is one thing, and another thing is whether the court can grant that bail, because bail on its own is discretionary and exclusively the right of court to so do. If my lord examined the circumstances surrounding, his allegations, and he's unsatisfactory to grant bail in that instance, he may refuse to grant him bail, even though ordinarily it is a bailable offense. But the issue at the moment is on the fact that the matter had been adjourned to 10th of December for the courts to take on the bail. The question that may arise on that day is whether or not he's entitled to bail. And if you look at the surrounding circumstances, you may want to agree that he's entitled to bail because the offense is a bailable offense. But then again, the court has the discretion to grant that bail or not to grant it.
All right, now, Uthman, you did shed light on the legalities, of keeping Yahaya Bello in EFCC custody, for the time being. But what does this mean, for the timeline of his trial?
Well, there is nothing wrong in keeping him in EFCC custody for now, pending the determination of the trial, except that bail is granted on hopefully on December 10th, when the court sits on the matter. He will have to remain there in compliance with the order of court. He can always be coming from EFCC custody to court to face his trial and all of that. But I'm hopeful that perhaps my lord may be lenient to grant him bail, considering the circumstances, also looking at the fact that he was an ex-governor. There are some certain conditions that comes with bail, especially when you look at the status of the accused person. In this instance case, he was an ex-governor. I do not think he had been before alleged of this kind of crimes before. These are factors that my lord are going to look at and then consider whether or not he's entitled to bail. But as it is, in any case, he still have to remain within EFCC custody pending the determination of his trial.
Now, Uthman, it's a shame that we can't go into the details of the legal proceedings that are happening inside of court because, this would be sub judice. But let's talk about, as a legal expert, let's talk about how you've assessed the EFCC strategy here in this case so far. Are there possible lapses that could affect the prosecution at the end, or have they carried out their strategy properly?
Like you said, you had always, you had preempted me already. Otherwise, I would have wanted to say that going into the substance of the attitude of the trial, the prosecution, may not actually be too proper at this time, looking at the fact that the case is still pending before the court, so that I will not be caught up with sub judice. However, I had expressed my displeasure over the manner through which EFCC is handling this case. Initially, the chairman of EFCC went on air to hold what we may call a press conference, calling out the suspect and all of that. There are certain things that we must have to know. The fact that someone has been accused of crime does not mean in law that he committed that crime. He's still an accused person, and he's still enjoying that right of innocence until proven guilty. So on the basis of that, it becomes improper for you, the prosecution, to go online or on the media to begin to call out the suspect at that point. There are certain rights that the Constitution had given to the suspect to enjoy. So in that instance, I wasn't too comfortable with the manner through which EFCC went about it. You are the prosecutor, you should conduct your investigation and bring your facts to bear before the court. But I believe that now that the accused person has been arraigned, the proper procedure should be followed, and then we'll allow the court to take a decision on the matter, and we'll all see the outcome.
Okay. Now, talking about seeing the outcome, we do know that, Yahaya Bello is actually an APC member. And, is it a fair question if his arraignment is a genuine pursuit of justice or a potential case for political sabotage?
No, I think this question is rhetorical. It's rhetorical in the sense that it has answered itself. Otherwise, the position that Mr. Yahaya Bello holds in that party, and they are the party in power. If the party was, or the administration per se, was going to look at the other side, they may not even arraign him in the first place. But just to show you that nobody is above the law and everybody is equal before the law, it is just proper that the right thing should be done, regardless of whose horse is God. I do not think that we are envisaging any form of favor from the ruling party. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been arraigned in the first place. And they know how to go about their things. I believe that he's going to face the law squarely. And if he is found guilty, why not? He would be convicted appropriately.
Okay. Uthman, let's talk about what happened in court again when he was brought back to court on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Now, he had told that he was only informed of that process the day before, and hence that resulted in a lawyerless situation. So if you'd first of all explain what this lawyerless situation is and how that's affecting the proceedings of everything that's happening and the implications of that as well.
I don't understand what they mean that he was just informed that day. Once you are being served a notice of hearing, right, that you are being summoned before the court, of course, you are going there knowing that you are going to be arraigned, to be asked a question on some certain form of, allegations against you. So if you are being put on that dock and then you are being asked a question whether or not you are guilty, it is just proper that should be the first time you are hearing such question, and it's just for you to take your plea, whether guilty or not. If you say you are guilty, my Lord will go ahead and convict you based on the extant provisions of the law. Or if you say you are not guilty, then we'll go into the nitty-gritty of the trial. And that is what had happened in court. Because the first thing to do is that when an accused person or a suspect is being arraigned in court, you take your plea. If you say that you are not guilty of that particular offense, then your lawyer will just have to apply for bail at that point. So if my Lord has the latitude to take the bail, my Lord looks in and takes the bail on the merit. If he finds merit on the bail, he grants the bail. If not, he would give an order for the accused person to be remanded in custody, which is what played out in court. So when they say it was lawyerless, I do not think so, because the court sat and then reminded. It is based on order of court now that the ex-governor is now being kept in EFCC custody. I do not think that there's anything lawyerless about it.
And then there's the case or the argument of the time that he spent evading the EFCC, which also resulted in the time that we've also waited for him to show up in court. Any penalties for this, perhaps? I'm wondering if this is also part of the process.
No, I think that they were just being political. In all fairness to the ex-governor, I mean, we have security agencies in this country. I do not think that there is any precedent of this country where any accused person would be within the bounds of Nigeria that the security agency cannot trace it. The burden is upon, who have accused a particular person that has committed a crime. The burden lies on you to go and pick the person wherever he is. In fact, the law has even extended it to the level where even if you go outside Nigeria, you can apply for extradition and it will bring you back to the country for trial. So I don't want to subscribe to that narrative that he was hiding, he was running away from where? We have immigration service here, we have custom, we have EFCC, we have Nigerian police, we have the Interpol in the Nigerian police to track wherever the suspect may have gone to. I think that with all due respect to EFCC, they didn't do their due diligence, or they didn't want to pick him up as at when due, because at the moment he left the office, Section 308 was no longer applicable. Section 308 talked about immunity of a sitting governor and the rest of them. So the moment he left office, Section 308 ceases to exist on his part. And we can apply every mechanism possible within the law to track an accused person. I do not subscribe to that.
All right. Now, when you said, you know, the EFCC didn't do their job, I was actually tempted to ask, you know, why it took so long for Yahaya Bello to actually present himself to them in the first place if he wasn't actually running. But then I would actually love to ask again. I know the case is still in court, but I would want you to predict how you feel, you know, this case will be resolved, and if you feel or foresee some likely hurdles for the EFCC in seeing this case through the conviction.
This would be going into the substance of the case.
I suspect.
How the amount to subjudice. I cannot preempt the court. I cannot preempt the court. But what I know is that 10th of December has been fixed for them to listen to the bail application, not to listen to the substance of the case. Now, what happens on that 10th of December would determine the next movement for that particular matter. If my lord listens to the bail application and is convincing enough, my lord at his discretion can grant the bail. Otherwise, he may have to be remanded pending the trial. I cannot comment on the outcome because that would amount to subjudice, and I wouldn't want the Legal Practitioner Disciplinary Committee to summon me.
We understand this. Thank you very much. At least him being remanded, we know where to find him this time. Let me welcome Emmanuel Bagudu. Emmanuel, you're welcome. Thank you very much for representing us in court. Well, not at the docks, but at least as News Central reporter. Do tell us, walk us through the key moments that perhaps didn't make your report in court on the day of his arraignment.
Yes, one of the very sensitive issues is the fact that you remember that Justice Kekere Okun, that's a new CJN, have actually warned lawyers to stop making comments while trial is ongoing. Of course, you will notice that reporting court cases have been so difficult these days because counsels are not talking on camera. So we were not able to, you know, get to speak to either the EFCC prosecutors and then, of course, the defendants of the Yahaya Bello. It wasn't possible for us, probably because of the sensitivity of the case. Now, the issue of Bello, of Yahaya Bello, is the fact that the EFCC have been so desperate to make a case for themselves. They've been desperate to actually prove that they are actually that anti-graft agency that Nigerians are trusting. And it's quite a very huge achievement that they have been able to arraign ex-governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State. And that is so because if you look at the way the ex-governor has been behaving, he has been evading arrest. He has his security, that his successor security officials have over several times confronted the officials of the EFCC to actually protect him. That's talking about the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo. So it is something the EFCC is proud of, and they will want to keep this trial, ongoing. They want to keep this trial they want to continue this trial without any issue. So the point there is that everybody is looking at what is going to come out of the case, because there's a lot of high expectations, and that the EFCC cannot compromise on this issue. And then there's something that's very important I need to state. On the day of the trial, when the Justice Mary Aneni, that's Mary Ann Aneni, actually ordered the remand of Bello, the EFCC officials were so happy about that, because as far as they're concerned, that's an achievement. At least they will have him in the next 10 days, in the next 11 days with them, and that they're going to carry out a lot of investigation, and that they are happy. They are very, very happy that this issue has been nipped in the bud, and that they are no longer being seen as a political organization. So in the next 10 days, all eyes are going to be on how this trial is going to continue. So it's a case of the EFCC trying to make itself relevant, it's trying to make itself clean, trying to show Nigerians that they are responsible, they are on top of their game. Yeah.
Well, but then, Emmanuel, how significant is the court's rejection of the EFCC's request to, prosecute without lawyers in attendance? Do you think that this signifies a tough road ahead for the anti-graft agency as well?
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. They are, all these things are political gimmicks. They're all political gimmicks. And then, of course, the EFCC is what the EFCC is trying to make us understand is the fact that whether, irrespective of the situation, they have successfully got Bello at their palm. That's the message they're trying to pass across. And everything that will happen, anything that will happen in this case will determine after 10th of December. Will be determined after 10th of December. So it is too early for us to start, making assumption of how this case is going to be. But from 10th of December, we're going to see, how this case is going to look like. What the EFCC up to, or what is the fate of the people of Kogi State, whether justice will be achieved. Yeah.
Well, Emmanuel Bagudu, want to say thank you very much as well to Uthman, who joined us earlier. Thank you very much for actually, giving us a bit of time.
Well, just before, Emmanuel
You've
actually
got an extra
leaves,
question?
Yes, I would love to ask, how you think the public and political community, have actually reacted to Yahaya Bello's appearance in court.
Yes. In fact, we made mention of an incident that happened at the Maitama High Court, where when the EFCC officials had an accident just in front of the court after they had been given opportunity to take Yahaya Bello in their custody. Now we had instances of supporters. Yahaya Bello came in to court with his supporters, and then unfortunately for him, there are people who do not like him. So it's a kind of clash. So in the process of taking him back to custody, there was a clash. The EFCC officials were trying to escape from supporters who were kind of trying to distract them from doing their job, and then they had an accident. So it's a mixed feeling, it's a mixed reaction, and it's expected to continue like that up to the end of the trial.
I was hoping that Uthman could also respond to that, because it seemed that you had a response to that from earlier. Uthman, go ahead, please.
Yes, I was going to say that we all know that this is a very interesting case, and it's highly profiled case in that matter. So what I only urge the FCC to do their due diligence and resist to be intimidated by anybody, resist to be intimidated by whatever may come from the state, because we know the attitude of most of our politicians in this country. Each time they are accused of a certain crime and they are being taken to court, you see people being bought to go and show placards to campaign against it and all of that. The law must take its course. Let us allow the trial to run the way it should be run, and let us allow the judiciary to do their job. The judiciary also should not be intimidated. Look at the law, x-ray it, and take your position firmly. At the end of the day, even if the court of first instance gives their judgment and each parties differ, you can go to appeal. You can go to appeal and recontest for the judgment to be reviewed. So on that note, I would advise the FCC to keep their eyes on the ball and keep pursuing the course of justice on this matter. The fact that they have been arraigned does not mean that he would be eventually convicted. It could be on the other side. But either ways, the both parties can go to appeal and then continue to pursue the case.
All right, now my next question is for Emmanuel. We know this is also quite a sensitive case, so would actually, love to know if there were any ethical considerations or even challenges that reporters faced, while covering this case, or you faced.
Yes, one of the challenges is the fact that, on assumption of office, the new CJN, Justice Kogi State, has actually instructed lawyers, counsels not to speak while a case is ongoing. So that has been a very, very difficult situation. And then, of course, when these cases are ongoing, journalists, sometimes find it very difficult to access the court because of the crowd. The supporters of Yahaya Bello were already in court as early as possible than even some of the journalists. So they blocked every entrance. So a lot of us had difficulties in accessing the court environment. So we're now left on we're not left we're not we some of we're not left on we don't have any choice than just to report the case the way it is seen in public. But what really happened in court, we didn't get most of the substance. So these are the challenges we're facing. The lawyers cannot talk, the counsels cannot talk. Of course, counsels are only allowed to talk after judgment or after ruling. So those are the challenges that we're facing, and that it makes it very difficult for us to be able to report the case as it is. And then people who are looking for justice, the people of the people of Kogi State, whom this case is being executed in their interest, are not given are not given the details that they need. So those are the challenges that we face. Counsels no longer speak, and it's something that maybe the judicial community must address. Yeah.
Now, this question is for both gentlemen here, Uthman and also Emmanuel. While a governor is in position, I'm sure that the law protects him, but there's been plenty of questions or arguments regarding the influence that the current governor of Kogi State actually had in this case here. Especially noting that one time when the EFCC tried to apprehend Yahaya Bello, and it was told that he was present to actually whisk him, in quote, away. So let me first ask Uthman, regarding this, any implications for the current governor, maybe even after he has left office or not?
Like I said earlier, once you have been accused of a crime, especially financial crime, I believe that the prosecutor, EFCC in this case, would have gone to get what is it called? Arrest warrant. Now, if you have an arrest warrant, and this is something that Nigerians need to know. For instance, the very day they went to Wuse Zone 4 to arrest the ex-governor, and there was allegation that the present governor, Usman Ododo, was there and refused and insisted that they should not arrest him. And we could not cite the presence of the governor. This is what they told us. But what we could see, or what we saw on the camera that day, was the presence of the anti-graft agencies, and then, people were crowded in order, trying to arrest the ex-governor. But that failed on that day. The point I'm trying to make is that so long as you have an arrest warrant, it gives you the authority to even break into the house, wherever, if you are very sure that the suspect is present in that place, regardless of anybody's presence, because this time you are not looking for the governor, you are looking for the ex-governor. And like I said, Section 308 was no longer applicable. So when you have an arrest warrant to pick a suspect, that arrest warrant you have gives you the authority to even break into the premises and pick up the suspect. What happened after then? Yahaya Bello resisted arrest in that place. Then the next day, what happened? Up to over 2 to 3 weeks, what did you do? He cannot be always sleeping with the governor in the government lodge. Wherever he is in Nigeria, there is accessibility as far as our security architecture is concerned. So that's why I'm throwing those blames back to the prosecutor, that actually perhaps they were playing politics, they want to pick him, and then all the chairman could do was to come online and begin to tell the whole world that this is what happened. We don't want to hear that explanation. A suspect had been accused of a crime. You have invited him and he refused your invitation. You go after him and pick him up. You have all the machineries, all the tools are there available for you to do your job. You can't blame the former governor, neither can we blame the current governor for preventing them from arresting him.
Well, Uthman, that's a very, I don't know if you agree with me, Dashi, that's a very well thought out response there.
Yes,
but I could also hear Emmanuel holding back his breath while you were talking. I'm wondering if Emmanuel has a submission here regarding this.
Yes, you cannot blame. Yes, you are right to say you have to say you cannot blame either the former governor or the present governor. But the governor has a responsibility of presenting himself, of being accountable. He was voted into power twice. He has a responsibility of showing up. So we still have to blame the governor and, if, of course, the current governor and the ex-governor. So these are people that go out that can vote us. We're going to want us to do. So I think generally, to round up my submission, every leader has a responsibility of submitting themselves, irrespective of the system.
You see, one of the most, sorry to cut in, one of the most difficult things to do is to allege that someone has committed a crime and then you willingly invite him to come. Ordinarily, as a gentleman, as a former governor, as a statesman in his own right, he ought to have honored that invitation willingly. And this thing would have, all the drama would have just been phased out. But because of the natural difficulty attached to such kind of invitation, even an ordinary man that you accuse of a crime will be scared of showing face. Perhaps he did not even do it, but the fact that that allegation had been there and everybody's eyes are on you that you committed the crime, you won't want to show up. And that is why the agencies, those security agencies, are there to do their job in case of resistance. You can only arrest somebody who have resisted an invitation or who has resisted an arrest.
Thank you.
He was invited probably.
Uthman, thank you very much for the clarification, but we have run out of time. But now this is real this time. I want to say thank you very much, Emmanuel Bagudu, and also Uthman, for joining us. We appreciate that you've taken out your Saturday morning to give us the details, especially from court and as you see it. Thank you very much once again.